Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 48 female, have been married to my husband, Brian, 52 male, for almost 25 years. We've had a good marriage until recently. We raised a daughter together, Sophie, 21 female, who is currently in college. For most of our marriage, I thought we were partners. We weren't perfect, but we got through life's challenges together. Then, about 14 months ago, everything changed. Brian got into a terrible car accident. It was a rainy night. He lost control of the car and hit a guardrail. He was hospitalized for weeks, multiple surgeries, pins and plates in his legs. The doctors weren't sure if he'd ever walk normally again, or at all. It was terrifying. When he came home from the hospital, he was in a wheelchair. I had to convert our living room into a temporary bedroom because he couldn't climb the stairs. We installed a ramp at the front door. I became his full-time caregiver overnight. I don't say that lightly. I was bathing him, helping him in and out of the shower chair, changing bandages, managing medications, cooking every meal, getting up in the middle of the night when he needed help to the bathroom. I learned how to operate medical equipment I'd never imagined I'd have to deal with. This was in addition to working remotely to keep my job, managing our home, paying bills, and supporting our daughter emotionally as she struggled with seeing her father in that state. I did it because I love him. I did it because that's what you do for family. I did it because I believed we were a team. I never complained, not out loud. Sure, I cried in the shower. I had nights where I felt like collapsing from exhaustion, but I didn't tell him that. I smiled. I said, "We'll get through this." I rubbed his back when he couldn't sleep. I cooked his favorite meals to keep his spirits up. Over time, things started to improve. He went from wheelchair to walker to cane. His recovery was slow but steady. He was doing physical therapy, and while the doctor said he might never be 100% again, he was far more mobile than we ever expected. Still, even as his health improved, his attitude didn't. He got demanding. He'd ring a little bell to summon me from another room. He'd shout for things he could have easily gotten himself once he was able to stand. He expected every meal exactly the way he liked it, at the time he wanted, with no room for error. At first, I chalked it up to depression. I thought maybe he feels emasculated by needing help. Maybe he's scared. So I kept biting my tongue. I kept serving. I kept sacrificing. Then, about 3 months ago, I overheard a phone call that shattered me. I was in the hallway, bringing laundry upstairs, when I heard him talking on speakerphone with one of his friends. He didn't know I was outside the door. I heard him laughing, really laughing, like he hadn't done in months. At first, I smiled. I thought, thank God, he's finally getting his sense of humor back. But then I heard what he said. Honestly, man, it's not that bad. I've basically got a personal slave now. She does everything. I just sit here and snap my fingers. I froze. His friend laughed too. Then Brian added, still chuckling, I don't know why I didn't milk this injury thing sooner. She's running around like a maid on steroids. It's hilarious. They both kept laughing. I stood in the hallway, holding a basket of his clean laundry, and my hands started shaking. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just a joke. This was how he really saw me. Not as his partner, not as someone who'd sacrificed everything to care for him, but as his servant. Someone he could milk for convenience. I didn't say anything right away. I sat with it for 2 days, trying to convince myself that maybe it really was just a joke. Maybe he didn't mean it. But the longer I thought about it, the more everything clicked into place. The bell, the commands, the constant expectations without a single thank you. It wasn't a joke, it was the truth. The quiet part said out loud. So I confronted him. I told him I overheard the call. At first he laughed and said, "Oh, come on, you know how guys talk. It was just a joke." I said, "A joke? At my expense? After everything I've done for you?" He shrugged. Then said, "You're overreacting. Don't be so sensitive." I told him I was done, that I wasn't going to be his slave anymore, That if he could laugh about me like that to his friends, he could figure out how to get through life without my help. Then I told him to get out. At first he thought I was bluffing. He said, "Where am I supposed to go?" "I'm still recovering." I said, "That's not my problem anymore." He tried to guilt me. "So after all these years, you're just gonna throw me out when I'm sick?" No, I threw him out because he turned my caregiving into a joke. Because he treated me like a maid, not a wife. Because he disrespected me on a level I can't even explain to people who haven't been there. I helped him arrange for a short-term stay with his cousin, who has a ground-floor apartment. He's not homeless. He's not in danger. He just has to do for himself now. Here's where it gets complicated. Our daughter Sophie is furious with me. She says I'm cruel, that I've abandoned her father when he needed me most, that he was just joking, and I'm blowing it out of proportion. She says Dad is still recovering. He's in pain. You can't just kick out a man who can barely walk. But the thing is, he can walk now. He can do far more than he lets on. He's mobile enough to call his friends, go outside, and manipulate everyone into thinking he's still helpless, when really he's just lazy and entitled. I tried to explain to Sophie that this isn't about his injury. It's about disrespect, about how he used my kindness against me, about how he took advantage of my love and turned it into something to laugh about behind my back. She doesn't want to hear it. She's calling me heartless, saying I've broken the family, that she'll never forgive me for leaving Dad when he's down. Now she is even threatening to disown me if I won't take him back. I feel like I'm living in some alternate universe where no one sees what I've been through. They just see me drawing a boundary and call it cruelty. I didn't sign up to be a slave. I signed up to be a partner, a wife, someone who loves and is loved in return. I was willing to help him through his darkest days. I would have done it for life, honestly, if he'd just treated me like a person, not a punchline. Do people really joke like that about the person wiping their tears, changing their dressings, making their food? If the roles were reversed, I would have been mortified to disrespect someone who was taking care of me like that. Now, I sit in my quiet house and I wonder, did I overreact? Was it just a joke that I took too seriously? Or was it the mask slipping, showing me exactly how he saw me, once he thought I wasn't listening? For clarification, Brian is not bedridden. He can walk with a cane. He can cook for himself, get dressed, do basic tasks. He's not helpless. I never told him he had to leave with no plan. I helped arrange for his cousin to take him in temporarily. He has family support. I was his caregiver for over a year without complaint. I never resented the physical labor. I resented the betrayal. Our daughter is 21, an adult. She's old enough to understand but refuses to see my side. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for kicking my husband out after overhearing him laugh on the phone about me being his personal slave, even though he was still recovering? Oh boy, of course not the a-hole. There's a difference between a dark joke and revealing how you actually view someone. OP's husband wasn't venting in private about his struggles. He was bragging to his friend about how he turned OP into a maid. That wasn't a one-off slip. It was him showing his true colors. OP didn't kick out a helpless man. She set a boundary with a grown adult who disrespected OP after she literally sacrificed her life to care for him. Good for her. And now let's hear community's opinion. This story hit me hard because so many caregivers are invisible until they stop serving. The second you assert a boundary, you're suddenly cruel. But where was the sympathy for you when you were wiping his tears and cleaning up after him? Where was the gratitude? People love to talk about family loyalty until it comes to respecting the person doing all the unseen labor. You're not the villain here. You're just finally done being his unpaid nurse, maid, and emotional punching bag. Not the a-hole. He said the quiet part out loud, that he was milking his recovery for convenience and saw you as a slave. That's not a joke, that's a confession. I'd bet anything that if you hadn't overheard that call, he'd still be playing helpless to keep you running around after him. And your daughter? She's only seeing the surface. One day, she'll understand what it means to be exhausted, disrespected, and taken for granted. Not the a-hole. Imagine sacrificing your physical, emotional, and mental well-being to care for someone, only to overhear them laughing about how easy they have it now that you're their personal slave. That's not a joke. That's emotional abuse with a punchline. Your daughter is too young to see the full picture, but you know who does? Every caregiver who's been in your shoes. You didn't abandon your husband. He abandoned respect for you, not the a-hole. Stand firm. My parents consider me to be their least favorite child. I'm the third of 4 children, 33 male, 31 female, 29 female, and 20 female. My brother is their golden child, since, as a man, they expected him to grow up, have a good career, and support my parents. It never happened, and my brother became a terrible guy as a result. My mother adores my older sister because she is gorgeous, has lighter skin and green eyes. She's a horrible person. My parents arranged for her to marry a wealthy man. My younger sister is someone I don't know much about. I've never paid much attention to her, and I moved away as soon as I graduated from high school. That's exactly what she did as well. We don't have much contact. In terms of academic achievement, I have outperformed my older brother and sister. I have a good job, and I'm married to a great, accomplished man. My job is something I enjoy doing. It pays well, and I work with wonderful people. I have a great husband. He's a wonderful man, though my parents dislike him probably because my husband is of African American descent. They've treated him poorly, making passive-aggressive comments and even calling him a slur in our language behind his back on several occasions. He did absolutely nothing wrong. They chose not to attend our wedding. My grandparents and younger sister were the only members of my family who attended the wedding. I've done everything to show my parents how wonderful my husband is. I just wanted them to try to get to know my husband. On May 29, 2022, we had our first child, a daughter. I offered to pay my mother to be there for me during her birth and to stay with us for at least 2 weeks. She turned down every offer. I texted them about her birth, but they never replied. My daughter has nothing to do with whatever I did to them to upset them. Why treat her like this when she's innocent? She deserves loving grandparents from her mother's side. It's such an awful feeling to know that my mom did everything for my older sister when she was pregnant and will not do the same for me. My younger sister called me exactly a week ago to inform me that my parents are in serious debt, almost $1 million. They are on the point of losing their home. My sister's spouse is no longer willing to help my parents. My younger sister claims that my brother is to blame for their current financial situation. We both have no idea how someone could accumulate such a massive debt. It's put me in such a dilemma. I want to help them, but it doesn't feel right, especially after the way my husband and daughter were treated. It makes me feel as if I'm dismissing their behavior. On the other hand, I can't let my parents drown in debt. Regardless of how badly they treat me or how much they resent me, my parents are still my parents. My family needs my support. I'm overwhelmed by all of this. I haven't told my husband yet since I don't want to involve him in my family's business. If I don't assist them, would I be the a-hole? If your parents wanted your help, they could have contacted you directly, right? Communicating via your sister still airs want your money but don't want you. Edit. Not the a-hole, obviously. Also, OP, you are just a few weeks removed from literally trying to pay your mother to support you through birth. This is going to sound super harsh, and I'm sorry because you don't deserve that after how you've been treated. But I don't know how else to say it. Your mother has already proven, plain as ink, that you cannot buy her love. You put a price on her supporting you through the most traumatic event a human being can expect to experience outside of death, and she refused. You offered money for her to meet her grandbaby, one of the greatest honors of someone's life, and they refused. You cannot buy your parents' love. They do not love you. Bailing them out will not change that. Take that money and put it towards your husband and baby. They are your family. They love you without the money. Therefore, they are the ones who deserve it. Not the a-hole. Congratulations. The baby is not even 2 weeks old. You have enough to worry about and a newborn to take care of. I would not get involved in their mess. They can sort it out. I'm 38 female. I was in a relationship with Mark, 42 male, for 9 years. Mark was a widower with 2 kids when we met. His kids were not able to handle Mark moving on, so we discussed going slow and giving them room to accept it, and if not, when they were both out of the house, we could proceed at a faster pace. I was fine with that because I never wanted to push. So we dated, but didn't live together or anything. Mark did therapy with the kids and had them speak to individual therapists to try and help them deal with their grief and to help them understand that he deserved to be happy. The kids were always very distant and cold toward me. I never pushed, but I did attempt to form a bond with them. But it always felt like I was being dismissed. Fast forward to both of them being out of the house, and they had expressed that they were uncomfortable with visiting the home if I were to move in, and that they would not be able to treat me like part of the family. Mark wanted us to give it a little more time and maybe go out to visit as a couple before things progressed. So a couple of months after that, we went out, along with his parents, to see the kids and to spend time all together. They ignored me for the most part. The one time I wasn't ignored, someone mistook me for their mom, and the younger of the two kids snapped at me for not being quicker with my no in response. They attempted to take everyone out for dinner except for me. When the night came, they claimed they could only get a table for 5, not 6, and that it was a family dinner, so it should be me left out. It was after this I realized, despite Mark standing up for me, that I could not do it. I told him his kids would never be okay with me, and I had waited for 9 years, and they were still treating me like some pushy intruder who didn't even deserve casual friendliness. He was devastated. His parents were upset, and on and off since our breakup, they were in touch to check on how I was doing. They then tried to set me up on a date with Mark a few weeks ago. I told them they needed to put that to rest because it was not going to happen, that I was moving on with my life, and they needed to let us all do the same because it was not healthy for us to be together. They said Mark and I love each other, and I said we did, but that I loved myself enough to not tie myself forever to a man who has kids who will never, ever come to terms with his moving on. That I had my dreams of a family, and it was not something I would sacrifice or carry out with someone who has family who would treat them badly. They said I was unfairly blaming the kids and took offense to my not loving Mark enough to endure it. I felt bad because maybe I was too harsh. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If they try to approach you again, just tell them that it's not their place and you're done discussing this topic. Mark was allowing his kids to get away with controlling the situation, and if you ever did have kids with him, his older children would treat them the same as you. Just avoid and block them and work on moving on with your life. 9 years was a long time to wait for them to come around. It was brave of you to leave the relationship. Wish you all the best. If you had stayed and had a kid, your kid would have been ostracized by his or her half-siblings, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It is very healthy to stop a situation in which you know you will never be happy. Those kids, on the other hand, sound a bit like spoiled brats. Maybe your ex-boyfriend shouldn't have waited this long to make it clear to them that he wants to move on. Ex-husband Jeff, 50 male, and I, 46 female, permanently, legally separated 4 years ago. Jeff still hasn't told his family or many friends we aren't together anymore. This works because we live on different continents, and his parents live on a third continent. They are Central European. He says this is to protect his elderly parents, including a mother with a serious drinking problem. I suspect he's also embarrassed our marriage failed. I understand, and I've been okay with playing along, and continue to be warm and friendly with his family, who are decent people. But now his sister's getting married, and Jeff wants me to come with him and pretend we are still married. Doing this will involve taking a week off work, paying $2,000 to fly to their country, sharing a room with Jeff at his parents' house so they don't suspect, and lying to everyone for a week. In addition, although I know he'd never hurt me physically, he can be very scary and aggressive when he's drinking, which he will be. To get away from this is one reason I left him. His reasoning is that if I don't go, his parents will figure out we aren't together, and that means I will be responsible for ruining his sister's wedding, and his parents will be rendered so miserable that his mother will resume heavy drinking and probably die because of it, which will also be my fault. He says if I don't go, I am selfish, and that I will be dead to him, and he will never speak to me again. I definitely don't want to ruin his sister's wedding, or cause his parents any upset, and the kids are now begging me to just go, because he has told them their grandma will probably die if I don't. But I also think his demands are unreasonable. We aren't a married couple anymore. I spent our whole marriage complying with his demands because I was afraid of his temper, and I'm trying to set boundaries and enforce them. But he says, as he always has, that if I don't do as he wants, I'm being a selfish a-hole. I offered instead to say I was coming and then pretend to be sick at the last minute. That's still a lie, but a smaller one than going to the wedding and pretending we are still a couple. And even if his parents suspect, it wouldn't make a scene or ruin the wedding. Jeff says this is too much of a risk given his mother's health and his sister's happiness are at stake, and so I have to go with him. Am I the a-hole for trying to maintain this boundary and refusing to go to my ex-sister-in-law's wedding? Not the a-hole. I think it is time to rip off the band-aid and tell everyone that you are separated before the wedding. Don't mention anything related to the wedding so that you don't spoil your ex-sister-in-law's wedding. Warn your kids so that they aren't blindsided. And also have a frank discussion with them that Grandma's choices are hers alone. Her drinking is not on you, your ex-husband, or anyone else. That is a good thing to learn as soon as they can. Not the a-hole, and not your problem to rectify since he apparently isn't adult enough to tell his family what happened. He shouldn't have lied about it for that long, and that decision is just coming home to roost. He's trying to control you, and it's just not right. No way I would go, even if he was covering all the expenses. Not the a-hole. The only person responsible for ruining sister-in-law's wedding will be him. But please, please do not go. This is a bad idea in the making. It's also suspicious. I, 26 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 28 male, for 6 months now. My boyfriend dated this other girl, Sarah, for 3 years, but she passed away shortly after being diagnosed with leukemia. 3 years passed, and my boyfriend met me. I knew about Sarah before the start of our relationship, and I found it charming when he would talk about her. It made me more drawn to him seeing how sensitive he can be. Our relationship has been perfect. That is until I decided to play Minecraft with him and his little brother in my attempt to bond more with the brother. I was exploring their home when I stumbled upon a room with a sign over it that read, "Sunray, Sunshine, Fake." When I asked about the room, my boyfriend said that it used to be Sarah's room. Turns out, this whole place was built by Sarah, my boyfriend, and his brother. I began to feel jealous of Sarah. I thought I was making a special memory between me, my boyfriend, and his brother. But it turns out, I was just a visitor in their fondest memory of Sarah. I suggested we use the room for other purposes, but he said no, which I thought was odd. Since then, I've become more aware of how much Sarah still lingers in his life. I learned that all the trinkets, plushes on his house and desk were from Sarah. He also still stays in contact with her family and visits them on holidays and birthdays. Whenever his family talks about Sarah, it's always about how perfect she was and that she saved his life. I feel like I am competing with Sarah and that I will never be like Sarah nor as loved as Sarah. I decided to bring this up with my boyfriend. I told him how it's unhealthy to hold on to an ex for this long and he should let go. He got upset and said he has no plans to let go, as he has and always will love her. He went on to list all the good things about Sarah. He met her when he was at a low point in his life. Sarah motivated him to start school and he pursued a good education and now has a well-paying job because of it. He also explained that even though he will always love her, it wouldn't make him feel any less for me because love is not finite. I told him that this does not reassure me that I'm a priority, and I would feel better if he were to get rid of gifts from her. That way, I'm not constantly reminded that I'm not her. He got upset and ended the conversation abruptly. No, and if you don't like my room, then don't go in it. Now I'm just constantly reminded of her. She is literally everywhere. It is almost to the point where I fight the urge to roll my eyes whenever she is brought up in the conversation. A part of me feels like I'm in the wrong for asking him to get rid of the gifts, but at the same time, my feelings are valid too. You're the a-hole. She's not his ex. She's dead. They never broke up. She died. She will always be a part of his life, and you can be a part of it too, but not in place of her. You need to either accept this or leave. You're the a-hole. Sarah is dead. She's not living 2 convenient towns over, and she's not going to be calling him up one day while you're at work. What you're going to do is push him away by being jealous of someone who literally cannot pose any threat to you. He loved her. She's gone. He will love and remember her forever. That's just how love and loss works. Do you want to lose your relationship over something like that? You're the a-hole. You will destroy your relationship if you insist on competing with a dead person. He loves you, but still loves the woman who he loved but died. Both can be true. Please, whatever you do not take matters into your own hands and trash or destroy things or try to give ultimatums. Also, as others have noted, stop calling Sarah his ex. That implies a breakup. She died from cancer. Ugh. My son is 22. My daughter is 18. 6 years ago, my daughter caught my wife with another man. She told her brother, who understood what she had witnessed. Then they both came and told me. I verified that it was true, then I divorced my wife. During the divorce hearing, both of them expressed a desire to stay with me. So I was given primary custody, with her getting 1 week a month. She moved in with the other guy. I've done my best to cut my ex out of my life. Our communication is limited to the bare minimum needed to coordinate custody and shared expenses, and I have never talked about our relationship to my kids. Initially, after the divorce, she told me that our kids were giving her hell when it was her custody, and that I needed to talk to them. I sat them down and asked if it was true, and they said they didn't want to stay there, but I explained that it would be best for everyone if they remained civil until they turned 18, so we wouldn't have to go back to court. I didn't get complaints after that, so it seemed to be working. When my son turned 18, he moved back in with me full-time and started college. He graduated now and is getting married in a few months. My daughter turned 18 last summer and moved back in with me full-time too. My ex-wife called me today and she started crying, saying that she was not invited to my son's wedding. Then she told me that my son hasn't talked to her in over a year. He had still been dropping in after turning 18 to visit his sister sometimes, but eventually stopped doing that too. Likewise, apparently my daughter stopped talking to her after turning 18 too. Then my ex-wife asked if I would bring her as my +1 so she could see her son getting married. But I told her if my son didn't invite her, it wasn't my place to bring her. She then started accusing me of turning them against her and threatening to take me to court. But I told her that there was no more custody agreement to take to court since both of them were above 18, and I hung up. I sat down with both of them later and asked them if they had cut contact from their mother, and they both admitted it. I explained to them that they did not need to do that for my sake, and I still recognize she's their mother. But they both said that they had talked about it a lot, and their plan was always to hold out until they were 18, but they had no desire to be around her or the other guy because she had destroyed our family. I told them that they were adults, and if that's their decision, I won't pressure them to change it. I was telling my sister what happened, and to my surprise, she said my son wasn't being fair, and I should make him invite his mother to the wedding. Am I the a-hole for refusing the attempt? Not the a-hole. She had 6 years to figure out how to at least repair enough damage that her kids wouldn't go no contact the moment they were able. Sounds like the opposite happened. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your kids made the decision on their own about their relationship with her, and you didn't force them. Your ex chose to have an affair. Your son is an adult and gets to choose who comes to his wedding. Not the a-hole. You respected your son's wishes as to who he wants at his wedding. You rightly refused to try to run an end around the guest list.